You know, we're letting it roll out. We're letting it roll out, guys. How's it going? Welcome back into Celtics Talk Weekly Post Game Show. I am your host, Rob Atayan. Joined with me are my two co-hosts, Nick Franco and Justin Lowe. The Celtics, they're at it again, guys. 119-94 against a weaker Detroit Pistons team. However, Jayson Tatum, Jrue Holiday, Al Horford, they all sat tonight. You know, it kind of feel like there's two. And I actually thought this was interesting. I'm going to talk about this, but no White, no Brown, no Porzingis last night. Horford, Holiday, Tatum, they played last night. They kind of flipped. They flipped the roles. And I think, you know, I think Joe, I think he's like those. I think like those three, White, Brown, Porzingis, play so well off each other, and then Tatum, Horford, and Jrue play really off off each other. So I think that was a pretty cool dynamic to see. Joe kind of has like a mini big three within
team
our
A, team B,
right? You know what I'm saying? Team A, team B, or team 1A, team 1B. I like that. I think that's a good way, honestly, to go about these last 15 games, guys. But again, a lot to dissect about this one. It was another bench display of what they can be. Peyton Pritchard night was huge. Yet again, he's kind of finding his groove. Luke Cornett kind of did his thing, double-digit rebounds. You guys know the drill, though. Before we get started, before we dive into everything, Justin, your initial thoughts, your takeaways, your reactions from the Celtics 119-94 victory at home against Detroit.
Yeah, second night of a back-to-back, another game where you're shorthanded, and yet another game where you get to watch different guys step up and fill their role. This is nothing surprising this year with what the Celtics have been able to do on a consistent basis. You know, this is something that, you know, we talked about last night with Xavier as well. We talked about how this team has been able to handle their business. Xavier wasn't too impressed by that win against Washington last night, rightfully so. I was, and the reason I was so impressed about it was because, you know, this Celtics team isn't playing with their food this year. They are on a mission, and it does not matter who they're playing, where they are playing. You know, it doesn't matter if they're playing the Wizards and Pistons back to back and it's March. Like, the Celtics are going to go out, they're going to play their brand of basketball, and they came out with another blowout victory. And that's what they should be doing to these teams, guys. It's blowing them out, right? It's not letting these teams hang around. It's not falling behind by 20 to the Pistons in kind of, you know, working their way back into the game. It's go in, stomp your foot, and really press them into the ground. And that's exactly kind of what the Celtics did here tonight. And that's what they're going to continue to do. I'm sure we're going to talk about it later in the show, definitely more interested in this Milwaukee game. But to go off your point, Rob, I think going into this Milwaukee game, you feel pretty good about yourself. Winning your last 6 straight games, you're getting to be able to give guys rest, right? Like last night, we got to see Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis sit. Tonight, we got to see Al Horford and Jayson Tatum and Jrue Holiday sit. So, you know, all those things matter. So coming down the stretch of the season here, Celtics specifically tonight were able to take care of business, Franco.
Yeah, I think this team is able to do that, and we're lucky that it was a 2-game stretch against 2 of the worst teams in the NBA, the Washington Wizards and the Detroit Pistons. I mean, but these are the types of situations that these players look forward to. This kind of brings me back to a GRD posted something on Twitter that Jaylen Brown liked, saying that if Jaylen Brown was a number 1 somewhere, he would be in the MVP conversation. This was one of those games where that hypothetical comes into play, where Jayson Tatum's not on the court next to Jaylen Brown, so he has a chance to shine. Likewise with Derek White and Kristaps Porzingis, all above 14 shots, and Derek White and Jaylen Brown both having 20 shots tonight. And you're seeing this team start to expand deeper into the rotation, and you're seeing players like Jaden Springer. If Xavier was in here right now, he would be ready to hop right in on this conversation. But you're seeing the back end of this bench start to see valuable minutes. B. Mikhailou, someone we rarely even seen when the game gets down to the final 5 minutes throughout
Right.
the earlier parts of the season. So it's awesome to see this team gel. And Peyton Pritchard, man, he's showing his at the earlier, probably about 2 weeks ago, as early as that, we were saying that Peyton Pritchard is a great rotation player off the bench, but he's finding a role and being able to fill other places other than being just that spark plug, shooting 3-pointers and being able to get quick points for us when we need it, when the players need to rest. He's gonna able to get out there and facilitate for these guys and really work with the starting lineup as well.
I was incredibly impressed by Pritchard tonight. I have been. Pritchard's a guy that I've kind of been hard on this year too. Rough, bumpy stretch here and there. It feels like this happens every year with this guy. Towards the end of the year, he just goes on an absolute tear. Once you start giving him these like bulk minutes, for me with Pritchard, it's what can you do in 15 minutes, right? When you're not really getting to settle in, because in the NBA, it takes some time. It takes for some players a whole quarter before they settle in and get a rhythm. So how can Pritchard continue this production on kind of a limited role with the playoffs? But again, like I said with Hauser and Cornette last game, they're just making me feel more comfortable about what this bench can do for us in the playoffs, because I think that's been a big question mark around the league, and what the media has negatively said and directed towards Boston has been, what can they do, if it's not the top 6, who's going to produce? And right now, Justin, like you said last night, I'm feeling extremely comfortable and have a lot of faith in guys like Pritchard and Cornette, in Hauser and Brissett. And tonight, I thought Springer did a phenomenal job. 6 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists for the guy in 20 minutes. Like, he hasn't really played a whole lot. He's been in Boston only for about a month now, and he was able to check in and kind of find a rhythm and, contribute. He was throwing his body around, 2 blocks for the guard. I mean, that's why, you got him, is because of his defensive upside and his athleticism. So I think, right now for the Celtics, one, I want to applaud that they were able to handle business. 26-1 now against teams under 500. They were able to handle business all year versus those bad teams. They're able to lock in. Now they're 10 games up a second place, guys, with 14 games remaining. That's amazing. Yeah. So essentially 3 more wins and you've locked in the 1 seed. So you can have 10 games remaining to finish off the year with the 1 seed locked. Virtually none of those games matter.
So that's really unheard of. That's really rare that ever happens.
Right.
Go back last year, go back 2 years ago when we had game 82 of 82 and Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown were in your starting lineup because the Celtics were trying to fight their way back into the standings, right? And that we were fighting for the 2nd seed. Just going through these types of games, these types of games are extremely important to win. Are they going to tell you much come April, May, June? Absolutely not. But this is a weather the storm, build good habits, and these are games that are going to help you get those nights off come April, correct?
Right.
I mean, look at now the Celtics, all of a sudden from 8.5 games, they go win 2 straight. And all of a sudden now with these back-to-back wins, they're up 10 games. And guess who their next opponent is? It's the Milwaukee Bucks. So say Boston goes out and they beat Milwaukee. Now they're looking at between 10.5 and 11 games. And on top of that, you either need a combination of 2 Bucks win or 2 Bucks losses or 2 Celtics wins to lock you up that 1 seed. So the Celtics, talk about roster flexibility. The Celtics are flexing on the Eastern Conference right now. They've not lost at home to an Eastern Conference team. I don't want to jinx it, but that's just a stat. That's the reality of it. There are only 3 losses: Lakers, Clippers, and Denver, all Western Conference teams. And it's like when I sit here, Rob, and I'm looking at these games coming up for the Celtics, it's like a month worth of preseason. With all due respect, it's like a month worth of preseason for the Celtics. How they have been able to consistently win all season long. There's been no letdown. There's been no let's take we're going to take our foot off the gas pedal. The Celtics won 11 straight, lose 2 back-to-back games against 2 really tough opponents where, let's face it, Celtics played like junk both those games, and they still had opportunities to win in both those games. And then now they respond, and they're winning 6 straight games. So to me, Franco, it's just like it's a month worth of preseason coming up.
Right. And this is something that we knew, like last year, didn't have the luxury of going into. And
right,
this is a testament to our depth. We're going to see Jaden Springer and Xavier Tillman hopefully become more cohesive with this crew, and they're going to feel that chemistry. I mean, there was one play this year or today when Pritchard and Brown and Tillman were on the fast break, and they were able to get 3 passes off on a 3-on-1 break, and that's something that you need to see this team gel together, especially with Tillman. I think there's extremely high potential with those 2 guys, and these final 15-20 games are going to be huge in their development and becoming that guy. And also, we're also going to be able to find out who's going to be that 15th man on this rotation or being that reserve, because it's probably in between Walsh, Peterson, and J.D. Davison. So we'll see who comes out on top with that, or they pull a free agent.
I think that the best part about this whole thing has been that they're going to be able to roll into the playoffs with extremely fresh legs. I mean, that's an underlooked aspect as to what's been a problem with Boston. I mean, people don't realize this. Last year, Jaylen Brown was hurt in that Eastern Conference Finals against Miami. And, you know, you look at it and it's just Boston was always in go mode in these last 10 games of the regular season. And I was looking at an interesting stat last year with the team. They had 14 losses versus teams under 500. 14, man. That's a lot. I mean, we won 30 of them, right? We were 30 and 14. But I mean, that is a lot of games. And I remember we said it. There were a handful of games last year that we kept saying, man, like that game, if we had just won a couple of those games, we'd like be sitting comfortably right now. And this year, you fast forward, that's what they've done. They have handled business all year long. And this is the luxury that you get. Is you handle business, you beat the teams you're supposed to, you play the teams that you're supposed to play well, and you know, that's that. And I do think that right now we're 10 games up on Milwaukee. I would love to beat Milwaukee tomorrow or Wednesday night. Regardless of the outcome of this game, I'm still feeling very comfortable out east. Justin, you just said it. Undefeated at home against the Eastern Conference. Knock on wood, right? 100% knock on wood. But that's very impressive.
Here's the thing. Wednesday night, and this is not an excuse at all. Obviously, if you're Boston, you are the better team. You are the better team. But if you're Boston and, you know, you're going against this Milwaukee team, and if you're a Celtics fan, even if you're a Bucks fan, you're not going to win this isn't the championship. You're not going to win this game isn't going to base, you know what I mean? Like this doesn't mean you win or lose the title, right? This is game 69 of 82. We got 13 to go. The Milwaukee Bucks need a Cinderella run. They know they ain't catching. I talked to a couple Bucks fans actually last night, and I was kind of like, what's your focus on right now as far as seeding? None of them are focused on the first seed. They're focused on fighting for that second seed because they have teams like Orlando and New York.
They have Cleveland right on.
They have right on their tail. So it's like, you know, this Celtics team has themselves set up really, really well. But it would be really nice to go out and beat the Milwaukee Bucks. Listen, you lost by 40 last time you played the Milwaukee Bucks, and you lost by 40, and your starters had to sit in the second half on national TV. It turned into a preseason game. Let's face it. That's exactly what it turned into. That's what it felt like. You go out with that FU mentality, and you go out and you take care of business on your home court. I would love to see Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford, Jrue Holiday love to see all those 5 guys on the court who have sat out these last 2 games. I'd love to see Sam Hauser. His injury, seemingly so, has not been deemed as serious as it could have been initiated. So that's a good sign. But this Celtics and Bucks matchup is really going to be a treat to watch. But if I'm Boston, there's no reason why you can't handle your business Wednesday night. Go out and get a win.
And get this, guys. Right now, Boston is currently the same distance away from Milwaukee that Milwaukee is to Chicago, who is sitting 9th.
Yeah.
So that really is like, again, we have seen the Celtics dominate in previous years, but never to this magnitude.
Never.
Right.
No.
And when you look at the standings right now, it's kind of like all right, who's Boston playing at that 8th seed? So right now, our options are pretty much going to look like Miami, Philadelphia, Indiana, Chicago, or Atlanta. One of those 5 teams. Who do you guys want to see in that first round?
I want to get Miami out of the way as quick as possible.
You said, do you think Miami? You want to get Miami off. You want
Rip the Band-Aid off. Rip the Band-Aid off right immediately.
So with Nets 2022?
Yeah, essentially, right? That's what you're saying is like, in that 2022 year, no one wanted to see Brooklyn. Boston stood their ground. They said, listen, we're going to take the home court. We're going to play the 7 seed. We're the 2 seed. And they swept them. So what about you, Justin? I mean, when you look at those 5 teams, we're going to have to play one of them. All 5 of them are looking more and more realistic. Orlando's getting hot again. They're creating some space with Miami. Who do you want to see?
Well, if I'm going to be honest with you, I want to see the Philadelphia 76ers. I think they are an absolute disaster class right now without Joel Embiid. And my thing is even with getting Joel Embiid back, we know how good and he's an MVP caliber player when he is healthy. Question is, partially torn meniscus, we know as Celtics fans, is not a rush back injury, especially to your franchise player. So, obviously getting Joel Embiid back makes a huge difference. But at the same time, I think this Philly roster is significantly weaker than the roster that they had last year. The same roster that blew a 3-2 lead to the Celtics.
Right.
I'm looking at give me Philly first round. Give me with or without Embiid. Give me Philly first round. Chicago, obviously. Wouldn't mind seeing Atlanta. I think Atlanta is just. I think Boston. Listen, Celtics aren't playing around this year, and they can't come playoff time. They can't. I understand we need to see what this team does in the postseason. This Celtics team this year, with what we've seen, sweeps Atlanta. They don't have a game 5 against Atlanta. Right. They don't have a game. You know what I mean? They don't. Right, maybe a game 3 where the Celtics really just weren't playing all that great, like whatever, one of those games. But they don't have a game 5 mislaps against the Atlanta Hawks. I think we can all agree. A team I don't want to see first round. I don't know if you were going to ask that question, what you do and what you don't. I would hate to see a team like the Indiana Pacers first round. Yeah. I understand the lack of playoff.
That you say that, because that was going to be my answer for who I want to see.
Really? Let's do it. Let's chop it up.
Let's chop it up, because hear me out. So round 1 is interesting dynamic, I think, when you're the 1 seed, because it's easy to underlook them. They're a playoff team at the end of the day, right? I don't think that's a worry for Boston. However, I think you want a competitive series. Call me crazy. I think you want 4 games, right? A 4-game series, maybe 5, maybe that is competitive, that is going. It's almost like a warm-up, right? And I think that is kind of what Boston needs in that round 1, right? Is put them in situations where the opposing team isn't as good as per se Milwaukee Bucks or Denver Nuggets. However, they're going to execute down the stretch at times, and they're going to put you in situations where you're going to have to execute. So your first time executing isn't against the Milwaukee Bucks or isn't against the Denver Nuggets, right? I think that don't get me wrong, Philly beating them would be nice. It'd be sweet. It would be.
We're used to it.
Right, you're 100%. Right,
all right.
Nothing freshen up the script.
100%. But at the same time, it's like there's a part of me that is kind of scared that it's like, all right, we're gonna walk through Philadelphia, and then you're gonna get like, an oh my god moment in the second round where here come the New York Knicks, guns a-blazing on you, playing physical, and not that we lose, but then that second round's going a little bit longer because maybe those first two games you weren't really locked in or weren't, you didn't get to practice. I don't know, right? It's like,
no, I can see your point. Similar to Brooklyn. It's like,
right.
It's almost like playing a really good team, like having the toughest path might seem scary, but at the same time, it could benefit you. And who knows if Boston doesn't walk through Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in the first round? Who knows what the rest of the playoffs could have looked like for them and that experience? So I agree with you. I understand what you're saying, but for me, I told you Summer League is more my pace, and I don't like these high anxiety games. So the Indiana Pacers is not a team I want to face.
Right.
Because here's the thing. Indiana, I feel like, presents this wicked, freaky matchup for the Celtics. And maybe it's a little PTSD from the play-in tournament where the atmosphere was like a playoff game and the Celtics just collapsed and
it was the blue court.
It was well, yeah. That to the court gave me cataracts. But I mean, it's just like, I don't know, man. Playing like Indiana's just got.
Well, Indiana's a much different team now too. Yeah. Their pace has slowed down drastically since the deadline.
If you want to see some offense, Celtics one of the best offenses in the league. Indiana one of the best offenses in the league. Like that's going to be one hell of a series. Thing is Indiana, what's really going to hurt them, people keep talking about their lack of playoff experience. Their defense is just really, really has not come together, which is a little weird because they have some really solid defensive talent on their team, like Obi Toppin. They have Aaron Nesmith and they have Miles Turner. So that just hasn't really come to fruition. But if I'm Boston, I would love nothing, in my opinion, I'd love nothing more than a Philly first round series. I agree with you, Franco, ripping off the band. I actually texted that to Rob today. I was like, dude, would be pretty sweet to just rip the Band-Aid off and like just shut everybody up about that.
I want Miami, and then I want to go into New York, and then I want to go into Milwaukee, then I want to go into the finals. Give me the hardest road.
You might be the only person. You know what? I respect that because
prove it. Honestly, I want this team to prove it. I don't want any single excuse. I don't want to hear any single complaint from Miami. Oh, if you guys went through Miami, the story would be different. No, I want to shut up everyone. Like, we are good enough to take. We know we are good enough to take on any team in a 7-game series, and the only thing that would get to their is the only thing. Well, you've said it all year. The only thing that would beat this team is themselves. If they got into a 7-game series with Miami, if they got in their own heads and started to choke themselves up, yes, Miami has made a few additions. Scary Terry, we know what he's capable of, but New York, I think, would be a fun series. I want it to be like we said, like this. Team has felt like it's been on cruise control, like getting its business done. I want to see as much adversity, and when this team struggles, that's when they're gonna reach the top. Because let's say they cakewalk into the finals and they're matched up against Denver.
Right. Well, I do think that something I said earlier regarding Miami. I have said that Miami scares me. I kind of leaned back from that recently because of, I think Boston's just a totally different team that they've been the previous 3 matchups versus Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals. Where I'm at now is I'm kind of leaning towards first round wise and Miami wise, I'm leaning towards Franco because I do think there comes a point where you just gotta man up and do it. Right. If you're the Celtics, right? It's like, and I think that's what made that 2022 team so special was, we've heard the players say they didn't care who they were playing, they didn't care where they were playing, and they didn't care when they were playing. They went into those games looking for a dogfight. And I think that if you have that same mentality with this much talent, I think it's a much tougher matchup and a much tougher series for the opposing team. So, I love that point, Franco, where it's like at some point when you're the Celtics, you just got to say, screw it, we're doing this. Like, give us Miami, you know?
At some point, you also have to look back at that Miami series, and I'm not going to sit here and trash Miami. I'm really not. I'm going to give them their kudos for beating us,
right,
and all that. So I'm not going to try to discredit them at all. But what I will be is I'll be dead straight honest, because I'm a diehard Celtics fan. I cover the team, and I watched every single second of that series last year. Let's face it, the Celtics, if were two fourth quarter miscues down the stretch away from going up 2-0, right? They were up they were up in game 1, they were up in game 2. The only game that drastically concerned me in that series was game 3.
Yeah,
game 3, when they came out with zero effort, down 0-2 on the road, and they come out and they get blown out. And that was the game.
Didn't Wick have to go into the locker room after that one?
Yeah, he did.
It said some choice words, and it's like, then they come out, they win game 4, win game 5, win game 6, and then game 7 happens. You talk about the Tatum ankle, but who knows, whatever. Only game that concerned me in that series was game 3. So it's like, it's not like, we were down 0-3, but it's also not like we were like, Celtics beat themselves a lot, and the Celtics did it the same year they went to the finals. It's really about this year for the Celtics, with all due respect to the other teams like the Milwaukee.
They'd be playing down.
It's to this team. It's, are you going to beat them? Are you going to beat yourselves? Can you beat yourselves in a 7-game series? Is that what's going to happen? You know what I mean? So, to me, that's where we need to see these guys really excel. We could talk about these Milwaukee games in the regular season, and in the New York games and the Miami games, but when it comes down to it, we need to see it in the postseason. And Celtics, I think either way, they're going to have their hands full in the first round. I think there's no doubt about it, because there is a chance you get a Joel Embiid back, and there is a chance he's really not playing that bad, and then there's a chance to see Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo is starting to shoot threes now, for Christ's sakes, and so who knows?
I think that Boston will be ready, and this is where I feel good about this, is I think they're going to be ready for everyone. I also think that as the playoffs approach, it's time as Celtics, fans, or, whatever you want to call us, to steer away from comparing us to last year's teams.
Right.
Years prior. I mean, I do it an unhealthy amount, but again, it's just like, this is a different team. It's going to be different in the playoffs. And I think that moving forward, it's like, all right, it's going to be tough, because right now you got to compare to something, but in the playoffs, it's going to be what they show you is what you're going to talk about. So I do think right now, Boston, they're sitting in a great position. Whoever they see, I trust them. I want to talk about a certain someone, though. Jaylen Brown, man. I mean, this dude right now is playing like the MVP. 30 plus points in 5 of the last 11 games he has played in since the All-Star break, guys. He has been on an absolute tear, shooting over 55% from the floor, over 40% from 3. His turnovers are down. His assist numbers are up. I mean, he is virtually playing like one of the best players in the NBA, and he's not even considered the best player on this team, right? I'm never comparing Brown and Tatum. I love them both. However,
jelly.
Yeah, 100%. You don't have Brown without Tatum. You don't have Tatum without Brown, right? They're intertwined forever in my books. However, right now, man, I love Tatum. You know that. He's, in my opinion, one of the best players in the NBA. However, right now, people got to start talking about Jaylen Brown, because, man, oh, man, this guy is dominating the NBA.
Right. Yeah. Jaylen Brown, it's what's crazy about it is he's doing it on a very efficient level, right? Like his shooting, his passing. You talk about the assist numbers up, the turnovers down, which has been a significant problem in his career, especially this time of year when it matters most. His shooting has been terrific. I think his shot selection has been wicked wise. He's not just forcing it. He's also playing a lot of bully ball, getting to the rim, getting to the basket, drawing fouls, getting to the foul line. He's also making the right plays at the right time, which I just think is so crucial. And it's funny, we talk about it every single show, whether it's a post game show, a podcast. every episode, Jaylen Brown is improving, and it's just when we thought we haven't seen enough, Jaylen Brown comes out and puts on another stellar performance. It doesn't matter who it's against, where it is. It's Jaylen Brown, and Jaylen Brown has been terrific. Easily one of the best, if not the best player coming out of the All-Star break in the entire association. And we're winning games while he's doing it. So just really crucial to see Jaylen Brown really build some confidence here. Proving why he's worth 304, right? So I think that's another big thing. When you get paid the biggest contract in NBA history and you're the only one getting paid that type of money, it's like, man, might have a little something to prove here why I'm worth this. And he's proving why he's worth every single cent in that contract, Franco.
And it's not coming in any type of selfish sense from him.
Right, not at all.
Yeah, the efficiency that he's getting to is all a testament to how great the team is around him to put him in the situations where he needs to be in and succeed. I mean, tonight was like there were multiple prime examples of him literally smiling because he looked at the jersey number of who was guarding him on the Detroit Pistons. And would get to the free throw line and would be asking them why they aren't doubling him when he's the only star on the court that he feels like. But he was able to get to the free throw line 8 times tonight. He was doing it at will. It just changes the game when he is able to get to the paint so efficiently.
Well, and that's the thing. You look at the Celtics real quick. Sorry, I hate to jump, but I need to play off of this. When you look at the Celtics, right? I think a big reason why Brown's been succeeding, Franco, is because that paint is so open. You bring Porzingis, you space the floor, you leave that paint. You don't have Robson in the dunker spot anymore. I mean, we've seen it with the great players in the NBA. You know, we've talked about how it's benefited Tatum, but we didn't really realize how it's going to benefit Brown. That paint for Jaylen Brown is wide open. You can use him in the post. You can use him off the dribble. He is now able to run in transition much, much better with active hands on defense. So it's like when you see Jaylen Brown and you look at his development, the guy's doing it with Tatum in the lineup. He's doing it with Tatum out of the lineup. He's doing it with Porzingis in the lineup, with Porzingis out. He's doing it right. He's always contributing, Franco. And I think when you look at that, it's like, all right, well, you know, in previous years, when you got a guy that's so dependent and driving the lane and the lanes are always clogged, it's like, at what point are you going to say, all right, well, what is he supposed to do? Settle for outside shots? Because that's unrealistic.
Yeah, and it's really what we were saying. I think Jayson Tatum, when he plays into his own game, that's when we're talking that. And when Jaylen Brown is playing in his own game, I think that he's like, oh man, I've just seen him do so much better over time with being not falling into, okay, who is it going to be tonight, me or JT? It's a 5-man playing, and the teamwork and chemistry that he's been able to develop, even with Derek White, and it's just been huge. And the fact that, I don't know, he's just been doing fantastic for us.
Well, someone else that we have to talk about, and you guys already know, we haven't done the player of the game yet, so the player game is coming up right now. We've been talking about him all year. He's been phenomenal all year. In my opinion, he was one of the biggest all-star snubs in the NBA this year, is Derek White. He did it again tonight. 22 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, 6 of 12 from behind the arc, 3 stocks, steal plus blocks. I'm going to break that down because the stocks has to be new this year in the NBA, because I never saw that before.
Dude.
I mean, the first time I saw it on the NBC Sports broadcast, and I was like, what the hell is a stock? Well, I'm late to the game. Derek White, guys, first career trip dub. He's just continues to just impress. Derek White, man. I mean, to have this guy as sometimes 4th best player, sometimes 3rd best player, sometimes 6th best player is such a luxury to have on this team. You know, how important, Justin, is Derek White's production going to be down the stretch in the playoffs in order for the Celtics to succeed?
He's been everything and more, and he's going to continue to be that for the Celtics. And I was super excited about the acquisition 2.5 years ago when we got him, and I just think he fits so seamlessly alongside Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. He plays so well with that two-man game with him and Porzingis. Just everything Derek White is doing, he's doing it with great intentions and with purpose. And it's insane how he's one of the league's best blockers, and he's a guard.
Right.
He could play defense, he could play offense. What is really cool about him is he can do literally anything and everything. He can shoot. He wasn't a shooter when he came to Boston. He played in the San Antonio Spurs system. He was a pass first guy, not really kind of playing off ball, getting ready to catch and shoot. Here it's kind of different. He's playing a little bit of on ball, but he's also playing a lot of off ball. He's able to open up the floor and space it so well, and his shot has just been terrific. He's really found some consistency in his shooting, which he struggled to in the first year he was here. So credit to Derek White every single night, and he just keeps getting better and better. And I love when the media starts talking about Derek White, because he's a player I feel like doesn't get enough love, and you don't see a lot of players like Derek White in the league anymore.
And you know what's a wild thought? Think about this for a second, guys. Derek White was not on the Celtics final minute rotation spot.
I mean, it's like, that's absolutely insane. And I remember, I will say, game 6, Brogdon and Smart were having solid games, but I was watching highlights of that, and I'm seeing Derek White. And of course, this is Derek White this year. I'm thinking he's like playing like, he's an all-star this year. And I'm sitting there looking at Derek White sitting on the pine, and I'm like, what are we doing in a win or go home situation? And we have Derek White on the bench. Like, I couldn't fathom that a year later, So it's like, and Derek White's one of the most clutch players in the association as well, with the most clutch streaks. So it's like, he's just done everything for this team, everything on both ends of the floor, which is so important.
And it's so nice that that he's getting like so much. It's not that he's being disrespected, that there's so much other talent on this roster that teams can't even compute another Derek White on the roster. You have Jrue Holiday as the guard next to him, and then you have Jaylen Brown and JT, and then Porzingis. The game has just opened up for him, and the fact that he's so versatile is what makes him so. It makes it so easy for him to have nights like this. I mean, tonight it's shocking to me that tonight was his first career triple-double for the Celtics, but
I know.
I mean, it feels like he's gotten it so many times, or he's gotten to that 8-7 mark for both rebounds and assists. So I'm happy that finally broke through. Also, 5,000 career points tonight.
Yes,
and it's just been a pleasure to have him playing that guard position with him, and
he's been everything and more.
Yeah.
I mean, he has been everything and more, man. I mean, his dad grew up a Sox fan, a Boston sports fan. He was ecstatic to come to Boston. I think the thing that really speaks to me about Derek White, and you guys have heard me say this over the past couple of years, is I'm a big fan of what are you doing when you're not scoring in the NBA, because I think those are what separates you from a good player to a great player. Derek White has so much value to his game outside of the 22 points that he can get you. And I think that is when people talk about Derek White, that's what makes him so special. You got players in the NBA that like Marcus Smart and Malcolm Brogdon last year, two that I can pull up, right? No disrespect to those two. I love both of them. But they're kind of one-trick ponies in a sense, where it's like Brogdon's on your team to be the scorer. Smart's on the team to be the lockdown defender. And, whatever else he can give you is like a plus, where it's like he can be a scorer at times, but he's not a super efficient one. Derek White does everything at an efficient level and knows how to play his role very well. The defense is on a nightly basis top of the NBA. I think this guy is a first-team all-defensive player. No doubt in my mind is this guy on that team. And then alongside that, he can play make if you need him to. He can score if you need him to. He can rebound if you need him to. And you know that every single night his defense is going to be there at the highest level possible. He's a tough matchup. He's a 6'4" guard that's extremely athletic. I mean, when you talk about Derek White, in my opinion, what makes Derek White so special, it's that every night you're getting something out of Derek White. It's never Derek White had a bad game. It's Derek White's shot wasn't falling. Derek White had a couple, mishaps on the offensive end that led into turnovers. It's never, oh my God, Derek White came out and stunk it up. His IQ is, I think probably one of the highest on the team. And I think when you talk with Franco and just what you guys say, it's just been an absolute pleasure to have this guy on your basketball team. I mean, at this point, you guys remember when Brad made that trade for Jrue, and one of his comments just says, like, the players like that don't come on the market really ever. And when they do, you have to go out and get them. Looking back on it, that's what Derek White is now. If Derek White ever became up on the market, you have to go out and get him. Because what he can do and what he can contribute in a basketball game, not many players in this league can contribute and do on any given night. And I think that, you want to compare this year to last year, Derek White is now finally on the closing minutes of the game every single game. And I think in the playoffs, that is going to be absolutely huge for the Boston Celtics, because there's really no one else on this team that I trust more with the ball in his hands to make the right play than Derek White. And I do think that, it's just a congrats for 5K. Your first career triple-double is a hell of a night for Derek White. And, I think that you got to keep that momentum going if you're D White. And I mean, sorry, off track here. Not really, but his availability, man, the guy plays almost every game, any game he can.
I wonder what his pay cut is going to be next time he gets a bag.
Well, I mean, he's up for contract this offseason. So that'll be interesting for the Celtics to see what they do.
They got to do it.
You have to.
They have
to. And you know what? It won't be Holiday that's taking the pay cut. It won't be White. It'll be Holiday. And I think Holiday and the Celtics Holiday is eligible for that contract extension in about 2 weeks. I expect that to be somewhere 2 years for $30 million. I bet 15 each year is what he'll be right around priced at. I think Jrue is in Boston's his best chance at winning. He's coming off of a $40 million, salary per year.
His money.
Exactly. I think that's where the pay cut comes. I think White is going to be sitting at a $180 million player, which you're going to have to pay. It's the price to win a championship. Wick has made it very clear that he's very willing, to spend that money and to pay that price, guys. But tonight for the Celtics, it was awesome. And before we close out the show, I want to touch in again on this Milwaukee matchup. Do you guys think this is necessarily a must-win game for the Celtics, given what happened last time they're in Milwaukee?
Yes. Yep. Yes, 110%. Yes, this is a must-win game for the Celtics. I'm not saying you got to go in and win by 40, 50 points. Not at all. Celtics need to go in and play some competitive basketball compared to what they played just a couple of months ago down in Milwaukee or up in Milwaukee. That was just absolutely unacceptable. You could bring up any excuse that you want. The 4 games at 6 nights, whatever. Again, we said it last year when the Celtics beat Milwaukee by 40. I'll say it again this year. There's no point where either of these two teams should be 40 down to each other, and it's just not acceptable. So Boston needs to go in like they did about a week or two ago when they played the Warriors, and they need to go in and they need to say, listen, we took that personal. We're going to come back here and, you're on our home court now. And, a few months ago, Boston handled Milwaukee pretty well. Milwaukee made a little 4-quarter run to make it look prettier than the score was, but these two teams have handled each other pretty well. The first 2 matchups, Boston will see Milwaukee one more time after this. I assume the standings by the next time they see each other will be pretty locked up. So it's, we'll probably see, a lot of G League guys, a lot of role players for those guys in the second matchup. But as far as Wednesday night comes, hope the guys get to rest up.
Yeah.
We know Milwaukee will be rested up. Yeah, we know Milwaukee will be rested up because their last game was yesterday, and they don't play again till Wednesday. So for me, easily must win, Franco.
Yeah, this is almost, if we look towards the schedule, this is probably one of the 3 final games this year that you can highlight and bookmark as a key game going into the final push of the season, and most likely will be either a round 2 or 3 matchup preview. So Milwaukee is always trying to gain whatever advantage they can on us. What this team has to realize that every single person, all 29 teams in the league, have a target on the Celtics' back. If you
Right.
go into Boston and you beat the Celtics, you get to write home about that, and you get to carry that on and be like, "Oh yeah, we beat the Celtics that season. That they were that ridiculous team."
Right.
And I just think that with Milwaukee being the almost probably our second closest to contention to us,
Right. Probably.
it's going to be a big statement if they can show that they can close out, and they did a great job of resting the players over this 2-game stretch. So I think everyone's going to be able to come in healthy.
Well, it's also like you look at this game for the Celtics. It's like they won 6 straight games. How many teams in these 6 games? I'm not discrediting the Celtics. The Celtics have put together a very, very good stretch of basketball. How many teams are they going to see in the playoffs? None of those teams.
Exactly.
They're not going to see these teams in the playoffs. These are important games because you have to win to get to the playoffs. But at the same time, you're most likely going to be seeing the Milwaukee Bucks in a playoff series way more than you're likely to see, a Detroit Pistons in the playoffs. So it's like this game obviously is some eye candy, and you hope that both teams goes in to this game as healthy as they possibly can. And this is an important game for the Celtics to really prove that we're not what we were 2 months ago when you played us and beat us by 40. We're much better than that. We're going to be better than that, and we're going to stand on our business.
I think that in previous games this year, over the past month and a half, I'd say since probably the end of January, so that start of that gauntlet, I've said, the win doesn't necessarily matter to me. It's more so how you look,
right? And
if you lose, it's how you lose. This game is more of a I don't care how you win, just go out and win. If it's sloppy, if it's ugly, you're going to have to, you're going to have to look back and kind of fix that and figure out how to not get sloppy. But for the most part, with me, Wednesday night, it's a must-win game. You got to circle it. Anytime Giannis and Dame come into Boston, you have to show what you're about. You got to win this game Wednesday night if you're the Boston Celtics. However, tonight, the Celtics were able to absolutely dismantle the horrid Pistons. I'm sorry, Detroit. I got to say it. 119-94 with the Celtics B team.
Why
tonight,
didn't you say that last night? There were.
I did say it. I did say it.
The Wizards are what, Franco? The Wizards
are. Oh God, are we having this debate?
This is the Xavier debate. So again, Derek White, outstanding, first career triple-double. The Celtics without JT, Al Horford, and Jrue Holiday. Jaylen Brown, he added 31 points. And then Kristaps Porzingis in his return tonight, guys, he also gave us a 20-point game. So a good win for the Celtics, an expected win. But again, any win is a good win in the NBA. I'm Rob. Next to me is Justin. Right over there across from me is my man, Nick Franco, guys. And we will see you live after the final buzzer sounds on Wednesday night for Celtics Talk Weekly Post Game Live. Until then, guys, you know the drill. Go C's.